I'm Tamika D. Mallory.
And it's your boy Mysonne, the General.
We are your host of TMI.
Tamika and Mysonne's information, truth, motivation, and inspiration.
New name, new energy, but
same old us.
What's going on, Mysonne Lennon?
I am blessed, black and highly favored. Tamika D. Mallory, how you feeling today?
Doing good. I'm on vacation. I'm only here because I love doing the show. I think since we have rebranded, I love street politicians too. And in fact, sometimes I wish we didn't change the name, but that's a whole different conversation.
Yes.
But I understand why we needed to evolve. We've been doing that for a while, and it certainly had put up some roadblocks for us. But I have had a renewed excitement around coming to this studio, and it's a beautiful studio, and being here and filming the show. And so I don't mind doing that, but this is like the only thing. And I say that, and then I do 16 different things. I say I'm only doing the show, and then I go to Newark to a city council hearing. And then I say I'm not going to do this, and then I got to go to somebody else's event and do this and that. But it's after Thanksgiving, and I don't go back to work until second week of January. All these people calling me, talking about a planning meeting and this and that, and I'm doing it. I don't know why, though. I don't want to. I'm on vacation.
Listen, the work don't stop, man. We had to give out turkeys. Shout out to Unfriendly Baptists. Shout out to Vanessa Gibson, Kevin Riley, who donated turkeys. My Little Young Kings, who was out there giving out. Shout out to Bronx Logo. My boy was with me. We had the bus full of turkeys, hundreds of turkeys that we drove, and we picked them up. And we went to the store by ourselves, and we picked up them turkeys, man. So shout out to everybody, Miss T over there.
Mr. Walker, who's a Harlem legend, my friend Jessica Walker's father.
Yes.
He is, I don't know exactly what his title is for the state office building in Harlem, but he runs it, and he's been there a long, long, long time. But I'm sure he has a title, chairman or something like that. I don't know exactly what it is, but Mr. Walker is a Harlem legend, okay? And he made sure to send some turkeys to us as well.
Definitely shout out to him.
You had a long line of people out there.
Oh man, that line was long, and it was over so fast. This probably was like the fastest. I think we were a lot more organized this week. And we had, and it was a lot more people but it was more people than we've ever. Usually at the end of our turkey drives, like we be having about 30 more turkeys that we have to stop cars that's driving by and be like, hey, you want a turkey? They was on that line in about 30 minutes.
They got their turkeys
and that was gone. 200-300 turkeys gone in a matter of 30 minutes.
Yeah.
So shout out to everybody that came out. This is something that I want to make sure that we do. I try to give back to the community because, it's hard. Like you said, people can't afford, eggs and milk. So they definitely can't afford turkeys.
For real.
So, we made sure that we do for the community, man. They always appreciative. Once again, shout out to Miss T. Shout out to my cousin James, over there at Friendly Baptist Daycare Center for always housing all of our events.
When I was at the city council meeting for in Newark, they said, I heard one or two people say, sometimes I be thinking to myself, wow, not even black people. I take that back. I always say black people. Everything for me is about black people. But older people can be so rude and crazy. Like, how in the hell, please don't let me be the rude, crazy person. I think about like how our mothers can be when they want to be, how they can be, and imagine that with people being upset about their communities and dealing with trauma. So it was like times 10 in this council meeting with people saying all kinds of things. And I'm thinking to myself, the young people that are watching, the older people, you can't possibly expect that the younger people are going to act right when they go outside, when we're inside of a actual courtroom, really. I mean, I don't know if it's a courtroom, but the council,
it's a hearing chamber,
the chambers. And I mean, Jesus.
Yeah, they be going off.
But one thing I can say is that they keep you honest. Some people over there, they keep you honest. And one of the things that I did, because what I tried to do, there was a lot of abrasive conversation and it was whoa at times. Because people feel they got their issues. They bringing it to the forefront. This is how I feel, right? And I said, okay, let me stop watching and you know, and being influenced, if you will, or whatever, triggered by the tone and listen to exactly the words. And there was a woman who said, we don't have jobs, or no, they don't have jobs. She didn't say we. Maybe she has a job. They don't have jobs, but they got a turkey. And I was like, damn, like, for a person who gave out turkeys and who worked to get them, to pick them up, to bring it to your community, to get boxes of turkeys, so because you want to help a family that's one thing that they don't have to deal with this holiday. They know for a fact that every year, 2 to 3 days before Thanksgiving, my son is going to give out turkeys. And that makes people be like, okay, I don't got to worry about that. I can get all my other things, which, by the way, next year our plan is to have all the other things and the turkey. Mm-hmm. But and shout out to Country Cooking, Auntie Sod out in Philadelphia. I was looking at some of what she gave out, and I was like, oh, this is exactly what I want to do. You know, not no envy, but like learning from, influenced by, right? And you do something so good, and then to hear someone say, oh, I ain't got a job, but I got a turkey, it's so deflating. Because it's like, damn.
We just dealing with so much trauma.
Right, because then I was going to say, but I feel you, though. Mm-hmm. I feel you, though. Like, you don't have a way to buy your own. So you got to depend on somebody else to give you one when really all you want is a job.
And the reality is the person that's giving you a turkey don't have a job for you. So they're trying to compensate for whatever they can because they understand that you don't have a job or you don't have the resources, right? So you kind of villainizing the person that's trying to do the best that they can because they probably barely got a job for themselves, but they saying I got a little more than somebody else does. So let me try to give back a little more, and we don't understand that we do more harm to our own people when we criticize them for trying to help than anything.
But I guess I want to feel like and understand that it wasn't meant for the person who gave out the turkey, but it was really a message to the city council people, like, yeah, we've got all of these things, these trinkets being done, but the central issue is that so many of our people don't have jobs. And it's not a Newark thing by itself, because Newark, you know, from what I can see, and just, you know, talking to Keisha Yuri, who is the deputy mayor for violence intervention. She, and I probably got that title wrong, but she's definitely over the Office of Violence Prevention. There you go. She's a deputy mayor. She was really showing me, like, this is what we've done. These are the jobs. This is what we have been able to do for the community, for grassroots organizers around this issue of violence interruption. And we have the data to prove that it's working. It may not have solved the problem, but it's working, and it's working in a lot of places in Newark that used to be like popping all the time. Mm-hmm. You see the violence calming down. And so there are people who are really working hard, but it's not a Newark problem. People speaking in the Newark City Council meeting are responding also to what's happening in Alabama, what's happening in St. Louis, what's happening in D.C., in New York City, across the bridge. Folks are just feeling suffocated. They're feeling strained. Mm-hmm. They're feeling suffocated. So, you know, it's a good place to be, because I always put myself in the middle of listening, hearing from people who are frustrated, because that informs for me and reminds me, humbles me to remind me that you doing a little bit of stuff, but you're not even comparing to what it really is going to take to actually heal our communities. So don't you get yourself all feeling big and highfalutin because you gave out turkeys or because you gave out whatever, because you did none of it is the solve. We just trying to do our part.
It's hard, but that's a tough pill to swallow for a lot of people, right? Because we ask our people to give back. We ask our people to look out for the communities. And then when you feel like you're being villainized for helping, the average person doesn't know how to take that, right? So when we look at, we hear the quote-unquote sellout and the people that left the community because they've been beat down by the people they're actually trying to help. And it's trauma. And if you don't understand that, if you don't really understand where we coming from and what goes on in our communities and how that trauma has affected them to where a lot of people actually hurt people. If you don't do that and you internalize that, then it sours you.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It
It
makes
does.
you feel like, man, fuck
It
these
does.
people, man. Fuck, y'all
It
can
does.
starve. I'm gonna be good. I'm worried about me and my family because I hear that all the time. Or I gotta worry about me, and I don't have that mind state, and I refuse to have that mind state. So regardless of whatever it is, it's never always just positive. There's a lot of negative feedback that I get. But at the end of the day, for me, when I see those people and they take them turkeys and they smile and they hug you and they say thank you and they know Thanksgiving is coming and 3 or 4 days before we give out the turkeys, they call me like, hey, are you giving out turkeys this year?
They
because
do
they
call
need
you.
those turkeys.
Or they call you about the community day, like,
the
you
community
doing
day. We
it?
doing
What's the
Miriam
day?
We doing that. You know, y'all giving out book bags. Y'all got school supplies. So I know that
There's a need.
They appreciate it and they need
And
it.
they
So,
appreciate.
you know,
And it's sometimes the what do you call it? The squeaky wheel gets the oil. So the person who might be speaking the loudest is making you feel like, damn, like what, why did I do it if it's going to be met with this type of feeling? But actually, those people are in the small majority. And I think that's something for us to say to all those people who are out there trying to do things, not just in the holiday season, but all the time, to keep going.
Right.
Keep going, because the majority of people, they appreciate it, they see it, they're thankful, and they speak highly of you when they're not around you. And I'm not talking about just you. I was thinking about, Mayor Baraka, and I was thinking, damn, it's got to be hard because we know him. He is one of the most authentic elected officials in the entire country. Like, he truly is that. And not just him, but also Mayor Lumumba in Lord in Jackson, Mississippi. Also, I believe, I know who I want to say. I'm talking about black men right now. Westmore, the governor of Maryland. These are people that I know them. I know their hearts. And I could probably go on with a list. It ain't that long of a list, but it's a list of black elected officials, our outgoing congressman, Jamal Bowman. There are people out there. I was trying to find.
And Jamal was there yesterday too.
I know. I was trying to find Chokwe Lumumba, but got it. Does he know? He my brother. I have to wonder what these people feel when they go home and they sit with all of this stuff. I'm trying to be authentic. I'm out here giving of myself. I'm up against, y'all don't even know. Like when I walk out of this room talking to you and you done beat me down and told me I ain't shit and cussed me out and said you ain't got this and you ain't got that and this ain't right and that ain't right, which some of that stuff I acknowledge and I'm trying to figure out a way, but you don't even know that when I turn my back and I go this way, the people that I have to deal with to fight for the little bit of resources that I am able to bring to the community, it's no joke. Like, it's hard and it's a struggle. And so I thought about Mayor Baraka while I sat there, and I said to myself, these people have every right to speak for their truth. They do. They have every right. They were talking to the council members. It's a little different. But nonetheless, it has to be a heavy burden as a black person who's in a position of power, especially as an elected official, to hear people just beat you down and down and down and down, and you did everything wrong all the time. No matter what, we're still all human, So anyway, shout out to Mayor Baraka, because he is doing a really, really good job of trying to turn a city from hell to getting closer to heaven. He definitely is doing that.
Yes, he is.
Just real quick on my thought of the day. So last week, this is really in true black women minding our business fashion. Mm-hmm. Something happened last week, and I just watched to see what people would say, who was going to be out there. I saw a few people speak on this issue, but not many. Walmart decides to close its DEI initiatives down. They shut down all that stuff, and they close some other department that has to do with black folks and LGBTQIA communities and so on and so forth. So basically all that stuff that they have been involved in for many years, they decided they're not doing those things anymore. Now, first of all, I worked with and know Walmart, right? It was a struggle to get it in the first place. So just be clear that Walmart did not just pop up out of nowhere like, we love black people and we want to have initiatives for other marginalized communities. No. People fought Walmart, and they had to open up their board of directors and their advisory board and other initiatives within the company because they were losing support from black people. Black people were speaking out against them. Black civil rights organizations were holding them accountable. I think, and so if I'm wrong, I can be corrected, but I think they had made it to a list at some point of corporations that are not doing good in the diversity, equity, and inclusion space. And so they were not, this stuff did not just happen because Walmart was just this good company. This happened over time. Mm-hmm. And since they've been in this position with DEI programs, there still has been problems. It's not like they just went and got straight and they were just these great stewards. No, they still had community issues. Just thinking about John Crawford. The man had a toy gun in Walmart and they shot him to death, right? And Walmart's response at first was kind of shaky. People had to be on them. And then the response got a little bit better. And I don't even know where it ended up because, with these corporations, one day they'll be over here saying we're so sorry that this happened. And then the other day, they won't change the policy, though, that actually created the situation in the first place. You got Walmart being a place that actually sells weapons, right, to people. You can go walk up in Walmart in certain places because of the state. I'm not saying that this is Walmart's doing it. I'm just saying because of the laws of the state, you can walk in there and get a gun. And meanwhile, the police are able to come in there and shoot a man down over a toy gun in the damn store. Mm-hmm. So let's not get it twisted. They're not closing down their DEI stuff now because of Trump. That is a lie. It is a lie. So anybody who's out there oh my God, Trump. And so no. The environment calls for a moment. Prior to even Donald Trump and him now being elected, this has been going on since the summer of 2020 when corporations acted like they were so excited to get involved with DEI. Yes, by the next year, most of the commitments that they made, they never actually followed through with. And so for me, a black woman minding her business, I just sat there and looked at it and said to myself, so what you posting it, you are in the comment section. I see all these people oh my God, you see Trump's coming, and now what you gonna do about it? Nothing. What you gonna do about it?
These people ain't gonna do nothing but talk, because when you explain to them that these things were happening, that we already foresaw all these things coming. Forecasted, exactly. Mm-hmm. We seen it coming before it even happened, and we explained to them, look, they're setting the stage for this. What they did with the Fearless Fund, right? They told us that we can't even support our own people. So if we can't support our own people, that they wasn't going to support our people,
right?
So and then the thing about it is that we once again we have our own people telling us that we don't need DEI, mm-hmm. And we made DEI into a curse word.
But then they say, would it not be DEI when you say what exactly is Kamala Harris or Joe Biden or whomever going to do for black people? Is that not DEI?
I think it's all DEI. But I'm just trying to tell you the narrative, right? The narrative is, and the thing is, they never ask the other side what they're going to do for black people because they don't care. You understand? They don't really want, I'm just trying to tell you that this is a strategy that they use all the time because they don't really want those answers, right? They want to ask a black person, they want to ask people that support black people, what are you going to do for black people, so that the other side could block you anyway, because they never going to do nothing. So they want you to publicly say, yeah, I'm going to be for reparations. So the Republican people
they going to make reparations
listen,
hot.
They're going to give reparations. Look,
they make reparations hot.
These people going to get them reparations. You going to get them people. Yeah. So it just don't make sense. It's so counterproductive. We do it all the time to ourselves, and I watch us do the same, song. Crabs in the barrel song and dance bullshit all the time. So we are where we are. So now you ain't got DEI. So now these major corporations that take all your money, that feed off black people, that feed off the $1 trillion, the $10 trillion that we
$1.4 trillion a year.
Whatever it is, it's $10 trillion. It should be up to about $10 trillion by now. But whatever it is, we are the biggest consumers in the world, and now we don't even call the people who we consume from to hire us anymore, to give us positions in these corporations and in these companies. So now they don't gotta give you shit. They can keep hiring their cousins, their brothers, and their sisters that don't have any qualifications, and you can graduate the top of your class, and you can go in on there with your resume and they can say we don't want nothing to do with you, and they can
because
keep
we're
on
not
doing
doing DEI.
because we're not doing DEI no more. Because
said,
you the DEI hire just because you black. You smarter than everybody. You done graduated top of your class. You did all this shit. You done beat them in every other area in the world, and now you come to get a job for the corporation. They tell you, "Nah, we don't do."
And
DEI.
not just a job, because they will let you clean the floors,
No, I'm
and
talking
they
about
will let
position.
you, and they will let you do some front office stuff. You can answer telephones, maybe, because if white women decide that they want to go to work, then you might not even be able to answer the telephone. But you will not be in a senior level position. You will not be as weed forced
That one's over
on the boards and this and that. So and they will have some black people there, but there will be black people who agree with their position, black people who support them, black people who have their same mindset or at least act like they do to be able to get in the room. And I was sitting there thinking to myself, I was saying, no, they will. They'll have a few blacks. Look at Byron Donald
and Tim Scott.
They did just put them a black person in the Department of HUD.
Place.
Well, but I'm just saying
there
will be
anything that's urban.
Who
black else put urban?
Because the reason why these companies will put a black person in charge of something or put them somewhere in a position within a company is because they do want, when you go on their website and you look them up and you're making a decision about who you want to buy certain things from, they do want you to have the illusion that these people of the illusion of inclusion. That's good. That was great, my son. You get the finger snaps for that. However, when I see people saying, Walmart, you know what I say? I don't wear Nike. I was going through boots this weekend, and I found some Gucci boots that's bad to the bone. I pulled them out. I said, damn, these boots are fly. I forgot I had them. I might have got those boots probably 6 months or so before we decided we weren't wearing Gucci anymore after they fashionably created a blackface sweater. I don't wear them anymore. I looked at the boots. I said, oh, well, somebody can have these. I had some snow boots, though, that's Gucci, that I'm like, only time I would ever really put them on my feet is to go outside and shovel the snow. So that's okay. They can make it for that. And I don't wear them. I don't wear them. It's somebody else I don't wear. It's some other brand that I don't wear. Yeah, and it's certain stores I won't go in. So I'm already on the boycott stuff train. Don't worry about sending me Walmart. Because once they said they canceled DEI, I already knew I wasn't going back to Walmart again in my life. I could be in the middle. And my family members that live down south, all they have is a Walmart. So I understand that is all, literally Walmart in the city in Alabama that my family is from. Walmart is the mall. It is literally the mall. So I understand their situation. But I promise you that when I go down there to visit them, I'm coming from Atlanta, from a different store with the stuff in my car, because I will not walk in Walmart for any reason. Anything I have to have, I'm not going in Walmart to get, unless it's life or death. I don't eat Waffle House. I don't do all of this Shakisha Clemens Waffle House. I don't eat Waffle. I don't care. I have arrived in Ohio some years ago. It was late at night. There was nothing open. Waffle House was the only thing open. My entire family looked at me and said, it's sad that you're going to really be hungry, because we getting ready to go over there and get us some Waffle House. I said, well, I won't be eating it. And you know what ended up happening? They was like, we can't even go in here because of this. And we went to my aunt's house and pulled out the grits from the cabinet and made our own damn food. I won't be going to Walmart. That's just my position on it.
I don't need Walmart.
Our guests are coming up. We got to reset, and we'll be right back. So we're super excited today to be joined at the same time. Usually we'll have one or the other, but today we have two of our friends, my sisters, our sisters, two women that I respect so much. I was looking at something the other day where a person said, I love you, to a woman, and then they said, I respect you. And it struck me because that second sentence sometimes is even more important than the first. Everybody loves everybody, but to say I respect you is so deep, and I truly respect the two of you. And so excited that y'all are joining us today so we could talk. You know, anytime all three of us get together in one place, people get worried about what we might be getting ready to say. And you should be worried because we have plenty to say. But we wanted to have an authentic conversation post-election to catch up, to, just kind of kick it and talk about where we are, where we stand, and make sure that the world continues to see that while people may be hurting and folks have all types of feelings, that folks who've been together must stay together more now than ever before. So I'm excited to have Linda Sarsour and Carmen Perez.
Yeah. Yes, the 3/4 of the Women's March co-chairs.
3/4. He ain't gonna never let Bob be
Bob.
She has
Bob is Bob, but you actually it's a 3/5 because technically you were like
the fifth co-chair.
You were the fifth co-chair.
Yeah, of the Women's March.
Yes,
sure
the honorary fifth co-chair because I had to make sure everybody was safe. So that's a co-chair in itself.
That's what you did.
So I'm just glad to see you guys like I always do. These people run my life, but that's what
always
it is.
For the best, my
always
friend.
Because we love and respect you, Mysonne.
The same way, love and respect.
I say guys all the time. We all say it, but
Tamika's trying to get me to stop saying guys.
Cicely Tyson was in a room with a bunch of women, and when a young lady who was one of the speakers got up to the podium, she said, yeah, guys, you guys. And Cicely Tyson stood up in the audience and started yelling, where do you see guys in this room? Which one? Guys, stand up, guys. And there was no guys.
I can literally picture Cicely doing
And
that.
she said, these are not guys. Why do you use that? And everyone, whenever I've said it to other people, they're like, it's just a regular thing. But oftentimes we don't think about how we've been conditioned to say things like, I'm not a guy, you're not a guy, you're not a guy. We're ladies, right? And so you ladies.
Ladies and one guy.
But I say guys all the time. So
yes.
Sisters and brothers.
Sisters and brothers. That's Linda's favorite line. Sisters and brothers. Sisters and brothers, we are here today. Sisters and brothers.
Well, I asked the two of you to come. My son said, you asked who to do what? I said I wanted to have Linda and Carmen to come so we could talk about a lot of things, and particularly the Women's March. I think it's important because we now see that the Women's March, those who are there as organizers within, I guess, the Women's March organization, they have called for another march. And there's a whole lot of talk about it. In fact, there is someone who works within the Women's March named Tamika M., who's black. I don't know her full last name, who has been soliciting people for different reasons for a while doing her work. I've been told she's a great young lady. I don't know her. But it makes people call me and say, Tamika, were you back at the women? I don't know. No, wrong. Not me. Sorry. And so wanted to talk about that. But before we get there, I think that it's important, as I said, we've been together. We will always be together. And when, over the last few weeks, since the election, I've been in conversation. And in fact, even before the election, there were black women who would say to me, I swear to you, if people don't vote right in this election and they let Donald Trump become president, I will never talk to so-and-so. I will never march with so-and-so. I don't care, whatever. They were, that concerned. And, of course, sometimes I have the energy to push back. Other times, depending on who it is, it's somebody who's like, you weren't going to fight no way. So it really isn't important. And I know there's some people who it is their literal excuse to get out of having to stand up and speak out against things that are pretty dangerous. Like the stuff we get involved in, it's not, I don't know why we can't find like scholarships to give out, like something, No, we get involved in all these controversial things. So some people, they just really never wanted to be involved in the first place. But then there are people who really have been engaged. They've put their reputations on the line, their organizations on the line, even when they were afraid or just didn't know, or unsure. We pulled them along. Some of them jumped in front to say, hey, I don't like what's happening in Gaza, or, I feel immigrants need to be protected, or whatever. And they are feeling very bruised by the election, by the numbers. Now, I think it's important for us to always be careful about exit polls, because as I've been studying, it's like it's no way that the polls that came out the first few days could be correct when you still have more numbers being dropped every single day. So you got to look at those numbers and really analyze it. But I hear women and men, but particularly in the 92% of black women, saying that they are tired of standing up for everybody. And that includes black men sometimes, and they are now deciding to retreat and to not be engaged in any movement at all. I know I don't have that luxury, right? Like to me, that's a luxury to decide you're not going to continue to be engaged in intersectional movement building. I don't have that luxury, nor do I want it. I love where I sit at a place where the people around me are not all the same. And that means that when I'm tired, you pick it up, you pick it up, we fight together. But it's a difficult place. So anyway, I said all of that just to set the tone for talking about coalition building, because we are the big rainbow. Like everybody looks at us. We're the second phase of the Rainbow Coalition. Reverend Jesse Jackson started the Rainbow Coalition, and then we came and we have actualized it as a true coalition that is a rainbow, including you, Mr. Fifth co-chair of the Women's March. So how do you all feel like just after the election in general? We talk, but every day the feelings change, So I just wonder, whoever wants to start, on how you feeling in this moment.
I'll let you start.
I feel the same. I knew we was going to fight regardless of who went to the White House. We were already prepared. We were having the discussions about whether or not, if it was going to be Kamala Harris, what kind of fight we were about to have. If it was going to be Donald Trump, what kind of fight we were about to have. And, as someone who's Palestinian, unfortunately, we knew that regardless of who went to the White House, the genocide's probably going to continue, that the conditions are going to be the same. But I want to say to many of those black women, some of whom I know myself personally because of the work that I do with you and the friendships that I've made through you and through your networks, is that it's okay to feel all those things. And in fact, it's okay to chill, take some times off for the holidays, relax. A lot of people were really working hard during this election. People were really spending time away from their family. They were traveling to other states. There were people that were on the phone constantly all day, every day. I was with you in the car many times during our own work, and I know people were working hard. And of course, you feel disappointed. You feel frustrated. And we also know who Donald Trump is. So that also is part of it. It wasn't that Kamala lost an election to a regular moderate Republican. We lost an election to a fascist authoritarian. This is not a joke. And we understand that. So I really haven't taken anything personally. I think people should be able to feel what they want to feel. But I want to offer a perspective and ways that I think about this election. A lot of people who were outraged that Kamala Harris lost the election, and they were saying, how could they, how could some people, vote for Donald Trump? How could some people look past, the racism, the bigotry, all of that, and vote for Donald Trump? And as we know, a lot of folks chose things that were personal to them, whether it was economic reasons that they voted for Donald Trump, etc. And I say to people, it's the same thing that people wanted people to do to vote for Kamala Harris. People wanted people to look, for example, past the genocide. They wanted us to look past the genocide, to forget that this Democratic Party just abetted a genocide, and that Kamala was part of an administration that did that, and we were supposed to do that because it was still somehow the right thing to do. And it's not about whether I agree with that perspective or not, but that's how a lot of voters thought about it. In both cases, we had to overlook major outrageousness in order to make those choices. Now, for me and all of us, we organize under Donald Trump. I know who Donald Trump is. I know the people personally around him are absolutely outrageous. And so I sit in this weird place where I'm like, I get it. I get what you are saying. But now I'm more self-reflective, and I'm more like, okay, we could be frustrated, we could be disappointed, but maybe we just got to sit and ask ourselves a question: why and how did we get to this place? What were the deficiencies of us as a movement? What were the deficiencies of the Democratic Party? And stop blaming the opposition for everything. Everything can't be because of them. Maybe it's because of us sometimes. And that's kind of where I'm at right now. So I want people to, take this holiday time, before the end of the year. And I've seen women saying that they're taking, vacation, they're taking time off. There's nothing wrong with that. Because guess what? The fight is still going to be here. What I'm hoping is by the time you get back here after the new year, you got your mind right and you're back outside where we're all supposed to be.
Well, I think for me, I pivoted. First of all, like, I'm so happy to be with you all and really engage in a conversation about this, because y'all are like the people who I go back to when I'm dealing with various things, and especially the movement and this very purist mentality, because clearly that's not the way we live our lives, right? We're still representing a community that we are from. And so I think Linda's absolutely right. I think that, you know, a couple things happened for me is in 2020, there were numbers that were released about Latino voters. And although they favored Democrats, they were beginning to lean Republican. And so what I learned in 2019, December of 2019, was that there was a confidence gap when it came to Latina voters. And they were going to be the largest majority bloc. They were growing into the largest minority bloc when it came to voting. And so I pivoted and I started building with other Latinas a group called Poderistas, and really trying to educate our young women through lifestyle, trying to get them civically engaged. What didn't happen is we didn't get the Latino men, right? So I focused on women because that's where we saw the confidence gap, and so we were able to see Latinas show up and vote. But when I was out there voting or knocking on doors in Pennsylvania or in Arizona or even in California, Latinos were saying that nobody came and knocked on their door, or that they were not being spoken to or outreached to by the Democratic Party, that it was really Trump that was out there making these announcements. And also I think various things were happening in the Latino community. The church plays a huge role, as well as economics plays a huge role. And then Latinos are not a monolith, right? So for me, I think the first night, I think I was one of those people that felt I had gone out there and put it all on the line, and leaving the comfort of my home and leaving my children to go knock on doors. But I'm even more so fired up. And I think even though I work in the field of criminal justice and police accountability, I'm all hands on deck still. And what I will say, I think that we owe an immense gratitude to Black women. As a Latina and being a friend of yours and a sister of yours, and even growing up in a Chicano Black community, Black people have always paved the way for those of us that have been in this community. And so I'm really grateful for that. And like Linda said, it's okay to feel the way that you do. But I will say for you, Tamika, I know you don't stop, because I know your heart, and I know that everything really affects you, and everybody's reaching out to you for answers. And I hope that you do get the rest that you deserve, that you do get the protection that you deserve, because it is difficult and I know we're going to be talking about the Women's March, but what we've been through together and also separate has really done something to us.
It was damaging to us.
It was.
In a lot of ways.
Yeah.
I was having a conversation with somebody today, and we were talking about a woman who has a very powerful position in the movement, and I'll just leave it there, because if I say who it is, you know, what their power is, it'll be given away. And that person has said very nasty things about me. And they all of a sudden called me one day like, hey, okay, you know, I know that stuff happened, but now I want you to help me do something different. And I think God probably wanted me to do it, because it probably would have been the right thing to do. But then I forgot. So I'm like, God, if you wanted me to do it, you should have put it back on my mind, because I forgot. Like, you were supposed to remind me a few days later. I totally, you know, the text messages and the emails come through like wildfire. Yeah, so I forgot. I literally forgot until today. I was having a conversation with another person who's going through some stuff and just feeling like people beating them up while they're trying to do the right thing. And I was like, let me just tell you this story. So I'll tell them about this other thing. But despite whatever God may or may not have wanted me to do, hopefully give me another opportunity to get it right, I was saying that it wasn't that what they did just hurt my feelings. It was reputational damage that was caused as well, because people around the world who may not have come back for my response or for the second half of the show only heard the first part, which was that I did XYZ thing to hurt them that wasn't true. And I just find it really difficult to see how people will approach you as if something didn't happen. Like you said, you were talking about this last week, entitlement, and won't even say, I'm sorry.
Right. Right.
And no one has apologized to us.
No one. No
What
one.
we've been through.
No one.
No. So I'm. You know what it is for me? Just watching, just knowing the love that we have. People don't understand that we have a lot of contentious conversations all the time. Like everything is just not peaches, because sometimes we disagree about different
Yeah.
things.
Contentious is an understatement.
It's an understatement.
That's a good
you know,
professional word to
Definitely
use.
not talking
Yo,
about
like we
relationships.
like really like, you know, so when we look at all of our communities in this moment, we're all facing a lot of different things, right? When we look at the election and we look at the presidency, we look at mass deportation, we look at immigration that's going to affect Carmen, we look at the genocide going on in Gaza, right? We look at black women feeling like this was their opportunity to be in a position of power and feeling betrayed. And each one of those things has a place, right? And each one of those things had an intersection, especially in this moment, that everybody had their point of view. And it was contentious conversations to have, to be able to say, hey, listen, I can't support a genocide. I don't care what administration it is, right? Then it was black women like, listen, we're gonna have to figure this out because I believe the black woman is gonna figure this out and we're gonna let us get to there. And then it was those conversations where it was butting heads. Like, and those things still exist, right? So that's why it's hard for us to move. So what is that process like? Because when you have a conversation with black women and they know that Linda is one of your best friends, and you like, we're going to keep fighting. They're like, well, the Muslim lady said, and the Palestinians said they wasn't doing all this. So I hear you, and you can go do that, but I can't do that. Or, you know, the people that said immigration, that, you know, the Hispanics voted this way. And I know Carmen, and I know y'all love these people, but you could do that by yourself. Like, how does that conversation...
Well,
wrap around?
I just would say one thing on that. Every single person that I've talked to who has said things to me like so-and-so could be on fire before. I mean, they are. When I say hurt and feeling betrayed, it's deep. The conversations are tough. Like I said, some days I have the energy. Other days I just sit and listen. And some days I just cry because I know that feeling... I'm not even judging them for it, but I know that they must be going through some deep hurt to feel that strongly that I wouldn't even piss on such and such if they was dying, if they was on fire. Like that's a lot of energy. But every single time they go, but I still love Linda. So, you know, they all say that. They like, but Linda, she's still invited to the barbecue. But she better not bring anybody from her community with her right now. And that's just a real thing. And we talk about it.
Right.
We talk about it. I don't hide it. I might not say, oh, it's this person and this person, because your memory bank can't let go of things that you know.
Right.
So if I tell you, well, you know, Tutu's the one who said it, you may get past it, but your memory bank will always hold that this is how this person felt when you were in the midst of a genocide, right? So I may not say that because that person don't mean it. That's the thing. People feel like they mean it. They really, really feel like they mean it until the deportations are happening and it's going on in your community as well. And then some black person is caught up in the middle of it because when ICE is moving, that was the reason why we fought so hard against ICE some time ago. I don't even know. That wasn't even in the Obama administration.
Right. You're
That
talking
was,
about
I mean,
Del Rio?
in the Trump
That was
administration.
Biden.
It was, no.
What?
Obama administration.
Yeah,
Yeah.
at that time he had deported more immigrants than any other administration.
Right.
In history.
In the Obama administration, we were in a full-blown fight during that time. I was working at National Action Network and other coalitions to come together. Not so much because I don't want to speak on behalf of anybody else's organization, but my recollection wasn't even the deportations, which was horrible, but it was also the use of ICE and the way in which ICE was entering our community.
Yep.
It was putting black folks in danger as well. And so people who believe that you can separate yourself from these issues, I'm not even going to argue with you. I just know you're going to see it and say, wait a minute.
Yep.
Because you must think that they know the particular zip code address and they're going to just be precise with rolling up on Juan Carlo. That's
right.
not how it works.
No, and even some of the laws are arbitrary. Like, for example, you know, CBP, which is Customs and Border Patrol, can operate 100 miles from the border, right? So when you're talking the northern border, that's the whole state of Michigan. So if you in Detroit, you part of that 100 miles. And as we know, and you remember this during the Biden administration when we rolled up to Del Rio in Texas, the migrants that were there were not Latinos or Central Americans. They were, in fact, as black can be.
That's
they were
right.
mostly Haitians, a lot of Panamanians, people who are very dark-skinned, who, if we're walking around the streets of Brooklyn or the streets of Harlem, you really wouldn't be able to tell the difference if they were African-American or African or Caribbean, and whether or not they were U.S. citizens or not. Like, you wouldn't be able to tell that just by looking at them. And so we went down there, and you know, and the thing that I think is important at that time also, and another reflection that I have about our movement is something I've held with me. If you remember that time when we went to Del Rio, Texas, black migrants, I remember I looked around. Where were the people? We were the only ones out there. It was us. It was Gurleen Joseph from Haitian Bridge Alliance with like 2 of her staff. I remember there was another 2 people from Alita Garcia, who's a friend of ours. Her team were out there.
And National Action Network was there the day before. Yes.
And, but from a movement, from an immigrant rights movement perspective, the people weren't outside.
Yeah, but that's how people feel about our movements. Like, people feel like when black folks are killed, and I have to always run, because as my son said, we do have contentious conversations. We was having one the other day on text message. Everybody's going back about back and forth about how we feel. And people, black folks feel like, and I think this is also what they're responding to, is something that has been tucked away in their pocket, that they never felt like anybody else really cares about our issues. Seeing you and maybe 10 people who look like you at a rally, even 100 people who look like you at a rally, seeing, you know, not understanding the shades, the different physical shades of black people, so Afro, Latino, and all of the different groups, not knowing that, and just looking for the light skin, like close to white skin individuals in the midst of a rally. You may or may not ever find them. In fact, there are more white people that show up for black folks, which they should, because they're the cause of the problem, or at least their lineage is the cause of the problem. But that people feel like we don't see any other community anyway. So why is it that we have to keep showing up? And that, I think that's a part of it. They just pulling out the handkerchief that's been stuck in their pocket. Like, you know, now I'm raising, I'm swinging excuse me. What is it called when you do this? Flag, but it's something, anyway, whatever.
Just waving the flag.
Waving the flag.
I think what's really interesting about what we're all talking about is that there are different shades of folks, right? When I went to the border with you, we were in El Paso, and I ended up going to Juarez to go visit one of my aunts, and my aunt was housing Afro-Cubans. So it was actually black women in her home who she was providing, you know, mutual aid for. And when I think about that, like, we just had gone to the border, and I was like, I have the luxury of then going and crossing and meeting the people that are being impacted by this. And then, you know, and then I think about the criminal legal system. Like, my fight has always been, because when I go into the prisons, it's black and brown folks. Right. And we use black and brown as a talking point. Meanwhile, there aren't a lot of Latinos that are sitting in leadership when it comes to the criminal legal system, right? Movement. But what I also will say is, recently working on a project called the Latina Police Accountability Network, we were looking at state-sanctioned violence and policing, and the parallels between, I would say, Chicanos, Mexicans, and African Americans, and the lynchings that have happened, right? But what happens is that we're not able to continuously tell that story. There's no real books that allow us as Latinos to see what has happened in our community. And so we start a movement, we'll be in it for 20 years, and then we focus on immigration. And a lot of it has to do with where the funding comes from, right? So foundations are pitting Latinos in one category. And I remember going to a Solidarity Summit, And one of the foundation women was like, "Oh, Carmen, so what immigration organization do you work for?" And I was like, "I don't. I work on criminal justice because on my Chicano side, my family has been impacted by incarceration." But what we found was that people like Azil Ford, Philando Castile were all Afro-Mexicanos, right, or Afro-Puerto Ricans. And we need to do better when it comes to our solidarity. And I know folks are saying, F solidarity, like we're tired. We're tired of asking you to show up for us. But I know for me, I try to organize within the Latino community to educate them about the parallels, to educate them that this is our issue too, and to disrupt this linear issue area that we keep getting funneled into, because not all of us are impacted by that. Like when you're talking about this policy that is coming up on mass deportations in the first 100 hours, we're not talking about the first 100 days. We're talking about the first 100 hours.
Come on, educate, Carmen.
They're going to be doing mass deportation, and it's going to include citizens. In 1929, the Repatriation Act deported my Chicano family that was from here before it became the United States. They were sent to a country they had never been to. They had never been to the other side of the border. And what that did to my family, it took away our land, it took away our business, it impoverished my family. My Chicano family comes back to the United States. My dad can't even cross the border legally because he has no documentation that he was born in the United States. So he had to cross the River Grande. And unfortunately, my family faced extreme poverty because of that. But there were 2.1 million citizens that were deported under the Repatriation Act because of the scapegoating of white people who said that Mexicans were taking their jobs, right? And there was no due process. We also know Operation Wetback happened in the 1950s. I think you recently posted something about that. Again, mass deportations without any due process that continues to sweep up citizens of the United States. And so if you don't think it impacts you, if you think, well, I'm born here, my grandmother's born here, my mother's born, you're wrong. It's going to impact you. And it also, like you said, people don't know your citizenship. So they don't need to have a due process. They're going to continue to funnel back folks, and they're deporting them to Mexico. Mexico has been trying to work with the United States in order to make sure that they have the capacity to receive the people that are trying to come through Mexico into the U.S., but the U.S. doesn't want to work with them. There's just so much education that we need to do, and I think there's an opportunity for us. Like I said, for me, I'm looking at pivoting, especially because I know that if it doesn't personally affect me, it's going to personally affect somebody that I love and that I know.
Right.
And so I'm all hands on deck.
And everything that Carmen said, and I think it's, again, a lack of knowledge and people understanding history, that sometimes we don't think a country's capable of something if you don't know that they actually did it before.
Yeah.
But I will say this, absolutely, people are going to get caught up in it. They're going to, lots of legal, you're going to need lawyers, again, having to prove your citizenship because your burden of proof is on you, not on the government.
Meaning carrying your passport, you think that's going to be a thing?
That might be a thing. I mean, you know me, I've been carried since
2007. You have to.
Since 2017, that passport, I literally got it in my bag right now. But what I will say to folks, and I hope that we get to this place, maybe it won't affect you, but it's still wrong. And I want people to get to the point in life where if you're sitting at home and you watch your undocumented neighbors being stripped from their children, or you watch ICE vans raiding a community or street vendors in the street or the local, deli or the supermarket where some of these undocumented people are, I just want you to be like, no, this is not okay. I don't care if you are impacted or not. You might be impacted, but you might not be. And that still makes the thing wrong. And what I will say, Tamika, we have to sometimes tell the truth. And this is why I love watching your podcast and you and Mice, is because you just say what needs to be said. And it's going to lay wherever it lays. The bottom line is true. Our communities got to do better at solidarity. That's just the bottom line. Like, I'm not going to sit here and say that, Arab American or Palestinian American communities have done this like massive wave of solidarity over the years. Yes, of course, there are key Palestinian Americans in this country who are been outside. There is a long trajectory and history of Black Palestinian solidarity that dates back to even before the Malcolm X's and the Black Panther Party. But the bottom line is that's just key individuals that you could put out. To say that our entire communities are coming out in the droves to stand with Black people, it's just not true. And that's a lot of work that we got to do on our part. And I will also say, as you know, in the Muslim community, and you know many of them, a third of Muslim Americans are African American. They're black people. And so this idea that the Muslims are the quote, like you said, the light skin or the Arab or the South Asian. No, a third of my community is your community. Those are your people too, because they also have to figure out how to be black and Muslim in America. And the solidarity is also sometimes not there within our own community. And so I just want people to know, if you're not in the community, I'm letting you know, this is the hard conversations that we have within our own community. We got to step up better for each other first within our Muslim community. That then helps us develop the type of solidarity that we can give to folks that are not exactly from our Muslim communities. But it's a struggle, and I've been struggling with it for 25 years.
It really is. It's really a struggle, and I didn't see it until this moment, right? And because I seen it during the Women's March, and I know for y'all, especially like I watched Tamika have to deal with it a lot, right? Because every time she does intersectionality work, black women say, "What are you doing?" Right? Every time. The Women's March, right? When everything started, Tamika was the first one targeted, and black women said, "I told you not to do this." Right? When we look at this election, and black women are saying, "Look, again, you still out there," and but
they
we
gonna say it again after this show.
That's what I'm saying. This is what I'm saying. And the reality is, I understand everybody's point of view, but I understand that the Palestinians say, "Well, listen, I understand that's a black woman, but this person is complicit in genocide, and I can't of sound mind for my people and my own sanity say that I'm just gonna overlook that because it's a black woman. And as much as I love you,
there was black people that said that,
and that's what I'm saying. So I understand everybody's point of view.
It's all true.
I understand. And everything is true. Just like I understand I don't really understand the Latino men that vote with Trump, because I just think that's just some misogynistic bullshit. But it's a reality, because some of them is thinking about their pockets. Some of them think that they have proximity to whiteness. Whatever it is, this is their reality. And what it forces us to do as real leadership, right, is we have to take our personal emotions out and lead with the reality that we actually have to deal with. And that's what it's forced me to do, because I'm not gonna lie, I've been pissed off for a couple, like I checked out, like, yo, you know what, I don't think this, I just don't think this is it. I just don't see it. I don't feel it. I don't have the energy. And then I had to say, that's not really leadership, right? It's not really leadership to say, because it don't go the way I want it to, or doesn't go the way I think it should go, that I should just leave. So I have to understand everybody's perspective, and I have to figure out a way to relay it to other people who might not get it, right? And show and lead through example, and say, despite what you might think is going on, despite how we might feel at this moment, the only way that we actually can win is actually do this together. It's no other way.
There is no other
way. They
way.
know that. They understand by dividing us and disenfranchising us. This is what they've done all the time.
Right. Yep.
And I was having this conversation, and you kind of brought me back to it, because I was like, I don't see it work. I just don't see us doing this. I think right now what they're trying to do is disenfranchise the movement. They watch, even though the Democratic Party has a lot of bullshit, it's not destroy the Democratic Party, right? Because there's so many. We have blacks, we have Latinas, we have Palestinians, we have Muslims, we have all of this shit in here. We just got to figure out, how do we make it move the way we want, right? Because this is what
the leadership is. The leadership.
That's what it is. It's like, yo, I'm not gonna leave my foundation. They say, yo, we need to all go be Republican. Why the fuck would I go somewhere where there's only 5 people that look like me,
and they don't act like
they values,
at all.
none of this shit fit me? Why would I move my whole town to go? No, I'm gonna fix my town up.
That's right.
Because this is where our foundation. We built this shit, and they know that we built it, and they seen it, and they said, we just gotta we gotta divide this shit. And it's just like Black Wall Street. It's the same. It's the same. Strategy and tactic. They blew it up. Last time they just blew it up. They sent bombs there. Y'all building too much shit. We're just gonna blow it up.
Blew up Philadelphia. Boom. That's right.
They did the same shit even when they say the Republican Party was for blacks before. They made us say, okay, we're not doing that shit no more, and we switched party. And what they keep doing is making us switch and have to migrate to different shit when we got to be strategic enough to say, nah, I'm not switching. We got this. We gonna build this shit right. Yeah. We not leaving our people. We're not leaving the shit we built because it didn't go right for us at one time. Right. So this is the moment for us to be strategic and understand what our enemy is doing. They want you to believe. When I sit there and say, okay, we just got 61 black people on the judges that just got put into, and they be like, oh, who gives a fuck about that? We don't care about that. No, we do. We actually, these things are very important. When I'm sitting there talking about, well, we got Democrats, I got over 300 people that's elected that I know. I know about 50 elected officials that I can go to, and you can come to me because I'm in your community, and I can go to them, and we can actually make change. I'm not going to leave that because it didn't go right for me.
Well, I mean,
it just doesn't make sense to me.
I mean, but I am interested in what it looks like. I do think, and Angelo said this the other day, that black people have to be able to build, because if what we say is true, that black folks will not, that other communities cannot get free until black people are free, that means that there has to be some real intentionality around black people getting free. Because we can't, as long as our foundation is shaky, then no one else will be able to be whole, if you will, right? And so there has to be some intentionality. I think that black people are in a position, many of us who are on the same page, there are others who are not, to build something that allows us to have political leverage, right? Like I still don't know that we're at the, and I don't think I'm saying anything different from you. I'm just adding. I think that we may still choose to vote Democrat, Workers' Family Party, whatever those things are. But we still need an organizing base, right? So the Black Party or whatever people want to call it, you still need an organizing base, a place where we can get ourselves together so that we can set the tone for what is happening inside the party or whoever we decide to vote for. Right now, it's not that. I think and this is something that people may not be able to articulate properly, but it is something they are feeling. That we're so mixed with so much that therefore it's chaotic.
That's right.
Because the Democratic Party, it's a little chaotic. It's a lot chaotic, right?
I will say, I mean, you started the show with this, and Mysonne was trying to take us here, and I actually think that it goes with what you're saying, so we could get into the elephant in the room conversation.
Well, I want to say one thing before you go to that, but go ahead and then.
Go.
You go into the okay. Let me say, what upsets me is not people who didn't vote for Kamala or that voted for Donald Trump because they were upset about Gaza. It's not people who say they are dealing with economic challenges and perhaps being closer or having proximity to Trump and what they believe to be money and power might make it better for them. The economy was different or better during the pandemic when their grandmother was dying in order for them to get the $1,200 check, but that's going down in the rabbit hole. What I'm upset about and what I have to get past in terms of what's giving me a emotional block for being in coalition with anybody is that I know that many Arab men, Latino men, and black men and others who chose not to vote for Kamala or voted for Donald Trump did it because they don't like black women. That, for me, the misogyny is more dangerous to me than people who made a decision based upon their pockets or their political views or their morals or whatever. That part I can work on, right? But there's no way that I can get past the idea that you would look at this woman who's highly qualified, know it in your mind too. It's not like you don't know it, but you know it. You acknowledge it, but refuse because you just can't. Your racism and your sexism, even more than racism, says that you cannot vote for a woman. Because that right there is not just about Kamala Harris. It's about me. And that becomes way more personal to me than just not voting for somebody because of genocide, which is obviously important, or these other things are important. We were talking, we debated about this the other day. Eggs and milk and bread, that's important.
Absolutely.
Gas is important. You know, all these things are important. People feeling like in their community, they have immigrants there or migrants there who have harmed them. That's important. Yeah. Safety is important. But just making a decision that she, as a woman, you can call her names and disrespect her and all of that, that for me, I can't get with.
But I think my personal position in this is that all of those things feed into the same thing, right? Because when you're having a conversation and somebody is explaining to you that Donald Trump is better for the economy, that's not factual. right? It's never been factual. The facts will tell you that that's not true. When you having a conversation, they say that immigrants are killing people in the hood. I've been living in the hood. Those things aren't really happening, right? So what I'm trying to say, it feeds in to the narrative of the racism and the sexism anyway, because they want to believe that shit anyway, so that they can justify everything else. Because when you have conversations with the average person that said that, because there's very few, there might be a couple that actually say, okay, these things right here are things that I believe, and they come with opinion based on facts, and they've done some research. But the average person that says it, I'm saying, where do you get that from? What information proves that? Because 9 out of 10 people say that Donald Trump is not going to be better for the economy, right? Where do you get that information from? What community are you from where the immigrants or the migrants are coming in there taking jobs or killing and raping people? Where is this actually happening? And they don't have any facts to support those things. So most of these people are just using these same talking points to justify their own bias that they have inside themselves.
Absolutely.
And that's what we were seeing in the Latino community, is that a lot of the men were repeating Fox News talking points, which is an opinion news, right? We were hearing things like, you know, and I seen it when I was watching football, Monday Night Football. There were advertisements about trans kids that Kamala was converting children in elementary into trans.
So
you know,
sick.
there was just all this stuff, and all these advertisements were being paid by Trump, and people started
Or
believing
people who
it.
support Trump.
Yes, and you know, people who were undecided were saying to me, we're doing research, you know, to see if she's qualified, and they would say to me, you know, under her current administration, under her leadership, they've allowed 11 million immigrants to come here and kill and rape people. I'm just kind of like, I was so appalled, but it's exactly to your point, right? One, we can't dismiss what Tamika's saying, is that there is racism, there's sexism. We're not ready for a woman president, particularly a black woman president, right? And there is a lot of anti-blackness in these communities. And the fact that a lot of the people who we were knocking on doors or talking to were repeating the same things that Fox News. And it's because it's on a cycle. If you turn on your TV, the first channel that it goes to is Fox. You kind of stay there because it's, you know, it's compelling. But if you don't know this information, you're going to keep repeating it and keep believing it.
Y'all made the very points that I wanted to make, so I'm going to move us along here on my, you know, one thing that I'll say before I get us into the elephant in the room, because I think a lot of people are trying to figure out what to do, and as we kind of move into the new administration, I mean, January is right around the corner. We're going to close our eyes and open them. It's going to be January 20th, which will be the day that Donald Trump will be inaugurated against in the White House. But before I get to that, I wanted to share something that Dr. John Powell, who is the leader of the Othering and Belonging Institute in California, who's someone that I'm in a cohort with, and me and him go back and forth all the time. I'm kind of like a little more hot-headed, a little younger, you know, and me and him for many years have went back and forth on this idea of like righteous rage and what does it look like in the movement, and when do we get to the point where we really start being a little quiet and listening to the people around us, even those that we don't agree with. And this election kind of reaffirmed what he had said to me many times before, where he says, let's be soft on people and hard on systems. And I think what his point is to say is, like, even the people you're talking about, the Latino men, the black men, the Muslim men in our communities, those that we believed were part of our coalition who kind of walked away from us, the question is why? Is it about them personally? Is that really the conversation? Or is there something more deeply systematic that caused those people to believe that we were not the party for them, or that our movements were not for them? Is there something about what they were saying that we didn't take seriously, where they really had deep concerns? Some of it that comes from the misinformation and disinformation campaigns, but we never leaned in. We were more like, you just ignorant, you just don't know what you're talking about. But maybe there was something deeper there. And I think Dr. John Powell's point is to say sometimes you just got to lean in and listen. You don't got to agree with people, but you got to hear where they're coming from, because everybody comes from somewhere. And their positions come from somewhere. And so I wanted to say that because I think it's been something that has been very compelling for me, and I've really been leaning in and been listening to people in my own community, like, let's talk about it, like, what happened, like, what's this, let's talk about the conversations. And there was a lot of what Carmen talked about, you know, culture wars. The Republicans were leaning into culture wars. They were, you know, leveraging sensitivities around social issues and some of our more religious elements of our community. You know this in the black community, this exists as well as in the Muslim community, around issues of abortion, around issues of LGBTQIA issues. Like, these are real things that we have to talk about within our communities. And so anyhow, And that brings me now to, where we go from here, because a lot of people keep, as you know, Tamika, calling us, emailing us, asking us all these questions. I got the media in my inboxes, as you all do as well.
I don't. Interestingly, that's why when y'all was talking about it on the text thread, I didn't say anything. Nobody from the media reached out to ask me what I think about the women's march.
I think because you that lady.
I know.
I'm just telling you, I didn't get it.
I mean, I got a few, and I've spoken.
She's probably getting them.
Yeah, and she's probably getting them, exactly. I mean, I've gotten a few, and of course, just organizers in general and people that are leaders of some organizations around the Women's March, which is happening that weekend, which will be 2 days before the inauguration of Donald Trump, and people keep kind of asking us, are we involved? The first, to make it simple, no, we are not involved in the 2025 Women's March. Just want to make sure that we put that out there. And I think everyone's going to do what everybody wants to do, and everybody's free to make whatever decisions that they want to make on whether they want to participate in marches right now or participate in this particular march that's being dubbed the People's March. And it's interesting enough, about a year and a half ago, I already, we got permits. We have our own permits because we didn't know how this was going to go. We didn't understand where we were going to be. We didn't even understand at that time who was going to be the Republican nominee. We did this way before it was clear that Donald Trump was the nominee, and so we had
certainly didn't think that Biden was going to be out.
That too. Mm-hmm. We were actually the real perspective that we had was that we was going outside for Biden. Actually, we thought we was going to go back outside for him because you were there for 4 years, and now all this is happening. We went to get those permits believing that we were going to show you in your next term, like, we are outside, all the way outside right now, because this is going to be your second term and you ain't got nothing to lose. And that's kind of how we were thinking about it. But I just say to people right now, like, as strategic OG organizers who've been around for a long time, people have to understand that the way we organize marches and how we think about organizing the things that we do is based on the political condition we find ourselves in. And not every minute and not every month and not every year is the same as the year before that or the year before that. We have watched violence from people, not all the people who voted for Donald Trump, but elements of the movements that support Donald Trump. And for me personally, I think about a lot of things with all these marginalized people, with these threats of deportation, with the ways in which law enforcement came out unequivocally for Donald Trump. We know that the unions, from the national to the local unions that endorsed Donald Trump, like, do you want to bring people in the same weekend where we know there's going to be an inauguration with potentially tens of thousands of people who are supporters of this next administration? For me personally, in 2017, we had no choice. Right. Donald Trump was a new politician. We weren't sure yet if he was actually going to commit or fulfill the things that he promised. So the idea was, we going outside because we want to make sure that you know that we're not sitting at home and letting you just go outside and do whatever you want, although he did do many of the things that he said. So we had to make a point to Donald Trump and his administration that we were going to make sure you know where we stand as a movement. Do we got to make that same point again? Do we not believe that Donald Trump doesn't think that the movement still don't agree with the things that he is proposing to do? That's kind of where I'm at right now. Like, I think there's a point that was already made and doesn't have to be made at the beginning of his administration. I think, and Carmen alluded to this earlier, I think where I am right now is you got to go internal. You got to go underground. You got to be figuring out, where do we then start appropriating resources to the community organizations that need the most resources? How do we develop the deep relationships to try to heal some of what has happened over the last few months, because we're going to need each other to protect our people. What are the mechanisms? What does it look like for us to protect ourselves from ICE raids in our community? Do we need to train more people instead of cop watch, ICE watch? And there are people that are already doing that. Like, what happens if your next door building, right, and you're in the window and you watching this whole thing go down? What are your rights? Can you come outside? Can you record ICE agents? What are the repercussions of that? The other thing that we know is that with this HR 9495, which people have seen all of us talk about, it passed in Congress. It's going to come up in the next Senate, which, remember, they have the Republican Senate, Republican House, and Republican White House. That's a bill that's going to pass, and it's going to go after organizations who are going to be in opposition to the Trump administration's agenda. So that's something we got to worry about. There's also this other thing that we'll talk about on a different show that comes from the Heritage Foundation also, and some of these other conservative groups, called Project Esther. And Project Esther specifically, a project that is going to focus on, any groups that they believe to be supporting quote unquote terrorist organizations, which is similar to the bill H9495. And the thing that people have to understand about HR 9495 is that if the government says that you are a terrorist supporting organization, remember, Black identity extremists, climate people have been called domestic terrorists in the past. I mean, Cop City people were charged with RICO charges just like a year and a half ago. So this is real life things that happen. The burden of proof is on you, not the government. So the government could just say so-and-so and so-and-so are terrorist supporting organizations. They're under investigation. We're going to shut them down and potentially worse, charge their leaders or whatever.
And they got to prove to us that
they don't have to have evidence.
Yeah.
Their government just could say it. It's just a statement that is made, and it is the burden of proof is on us to prove that what the government is saying is wrong. And mind you, 99.9% of the organizations or leaders will be able to prove that they're not what the government says they are. But after how much hundreds of thousands of dollars of legal services that people are going to have to put up lawyers and do all of that, because in order to prove that you are not what the government says you are, requires a certain type of lawyer. It can't be like our friend, down the block that helps us every once in a while with some paperwork. You need national security type folks that know how the government works on these material support to terrorism type cases. So the point is back to the women's
It's
march.
arbitrary.
It's arbitrary.
And there's language in it that is not just about terrorism either. So it's very broad, and it really makes me feel. I know people are not gonna like this, what I'm about to say, but it scares me that folks can be so clueless to write comments that ask me, well, why should we care about that? I mean, if you're supporting a terror, and they really mean it, like if you're supporting a terrorist organization, then something should be done about it. Their mind doesn't even expand far enough to understand that you can be labeled that way whether you're doing it or not, just because you're dealing with a vindictive presidency and government that can choose to say, just because you out here talking about free power. First of all, I've had people tell me that my clothing, a sweatshirt that has a watermelon on it, which, by the way, Black people eat watermelon too, so it might not even be that I'm saying free Palestine, but it is. That's what it's for. People have said, oh, that scares me, or that makes me feel like you're saying death to Israelis or to Jewish people, right? So how they will make the decision of who they label one way or the other is going to be it's going to be very broad.
Yep.
Right? And so you have to expand your thinking beyond believing. And Black folks, a lot of Black people suffer with this because, especially if you are from a family where mother, grandmother, grandfather, whatever, were people who told you do what them folk tell you to do.
That's right.
Follow the rules are the rules. Don't be getting into nothing with Mr. Johnny and them down there downtown. You already know they don't like us. You too Black to go certain places at certain times. And it is trauma and fear. That's not who they want to be, but that's their reality. And so when those are people who pretty much believe whatever they hear in the news, in the newspaper, whatever the media says. I have people to say they can't be telling you one thing on the news if it's not really true.
That's right.
Right, like it's no way they can.
But also, Black people are saying that for other good reasons, right? Because they know when these types of laws and the things that happen when law enforcement come, they always come for the Black people first.
Well, no, but I'm talking about people who are looking at me. I get those folks who are just like, don't just stay out of trouble. But that mindset often leads to, if that's what they said, then it must be true, because they won't lie. Like, they just believe,
for sure.
So I'm saying, I put all that out there. Let me just say how I feel about the Women's March.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Well, I just want to end my point by saying all this that I said is to say that it's a dangerous time, and we have to be very intentional about who we're putting outside and how we're bringing marginalized people to the street, because at the end of the day, as organizers, at least we do feel this way, we're responsible for people.
Yeah.
And I don't want to be in a place of responsibility for people's safety, and also for the government to start deciding now who are the people that are in opposition to us. We got to be intentional.
I think that it should be called the White Women's March. I think that white women should ask Black and brown women to stand down. You protect yourself. Don't worry about it. we're going to go out here
Bingo.
and we're going to put ourselves in harm's way and in danger's eye, and we're going to do the work for at least the next several months, at least for the next 2 years. I don't know what the time period is, and not put black and brown folks and small black and brown organizations in harm's way. I don't think anybody would have been. I got people sending me all types of things. They're sending me letters where they're calling for the Women's March not to do this march. I've got people sending me petitions. People are sending me all types of stuff where they're trying to say that this should not happen. I'm saying that it should happen, but it should be a sea full of white women.
Yes.
That's what I think it should be. That's my advice to the Women's March.
I concur.
I'm so glad we're having this conversation. And I know we've been texting about different things. And I think, first of all, just to reiterate what Linda was saying, we are not part of the Women's March.
Right.
And so I love all of you who have been reaching out, but we are not going to be marching.
It's been 5 years. You telling me people don't pay attention for 5 years ago?
Well, I think people think major mobilization.
You pop back up.
Yeah.
You pop back up, but also they know that we're the ones capable of actually doing the
Right.
mass mobilization because people know us.
And I'm hoping that they do outdo what we were able to accomplish.
Absolutely.
Like, there should be over
20 million.
Yeah,
20
exactly.
million white women.
Millions and millions
And
of
men.
white women, yes. And their white husbands, white fathers, white sons, right? I personally feel it is a waste of money. As people who have organized marches at that caliber, we know how much it costs. And our communities right now are suffering. A lot of organizations are needing money for education, needing money for security, needing money for
people trying to
all
just
these
keep
different
the lights on in the offices.
I know. And so there's just a lot that we need. And if I know we had created a 501c4 so that we could get people civically engaged. And we should have been organizing these last 4 years. We should have been getting out the vote. We should have been getting women civically engaged. And we should have been actually turning those white women around that voted for Trump in 2016. We should have been reaching out to them. But that didn't happen. And I know it's not my responsibility. It's not your responsibility or Linda's. But I do feel that we should be doing something different. And that money that all these folks have should be going to the most marginalized communities. And I don't know if on January 18th, we're going to be seeing the same numbers that we did January 21st of 2017.
Well, first of all, I just want to say that I love and respect all of you. I was there when the Women's March started, when you women put your lives on the line and took a lot of heat. And, I think that you can't recreate that. I don't think anybody can recreate that. I think the energy around that march was way different. I think, like you said, Linda, we understood that we wanted to make sure that people knew that Donald Trump knew where we stood and that we were against him, and the world made that statement. I think at this point that we have evolved into different levels of leadership and strategies, and we understand now who we're fighting against, and the best way to fight them is to organize internally and actually not as broad and visible, because they're making laws that actually target us now, that can actually take us out. So we have to be a lot more strategic as to the way we strategize. Like you said, if the white women want to go out there and organize a march, go right along. We need allies. We need accomplices. So we need the white women to actually understand this moment. If you want to go out there, put your body on the line and be, in solidarity with us, and we appreciate that. But at this moment, the level of strategy and organizing that we have to do has to be very different, and has to be very intentional. So I just want to say that I appreciate you and I love you guys. I mean, you ladies, because because she said there's no guys.
I gotta say something on the record though about the Women's March, because then I feel like I didn't say my part. I will just say personally, over the last 15 months, I have been so disappointed with the Women's March itself. As someone who's one of the original co-founders and co-chairs of the march, you would believe that a women's march that was founded by one Palestinian American woman who was in unequivocal solidarity with all marginalized people, where we were outside putting our bodies aligned for others, you would think at some point the Women's March would say, we are women with power and we are going to say the things that need to be said. The Women's March in 15 months said ceasefire one time. There's one post on their whole social media for 15 months that says ceasefire. And that's all it says. It just says the word ceasefire. Then last week, I think because of the criticism that they were receiving about the march, they came out, in addition to hundreds of other organizations, calling on people to call their members of the United States Senate to support the Senator Bernie Sanders blocking aid to Israel. That was 15 months after a genocide began. And even an organization that claims to support reproductive rights, women's rights, gender justice, you would think that someone along the way would say, wait a minute, there are 50,000 pregnant women in Gaza, and we as the American people are bombing the hell out of them and they have no access to health care. In fact, women were delivering babies without anesthesia and having C-section. So just want to say to people personally, and this has my personal position should not interfere in what you believe or what you think about Women's March, but I just want people to know from the perspective of someone who was part of the original group of the Women's March, that's how I felt over the last 15 months. And I now know which organizations truly stand for all people, and who within the movement is willing to say and be fully and unequivocally in solidarity with marginalized people around the world. And I kind of figured out what their space is and what they've decided and what positions that they decided. Because most of the women that we organized with at the Women's March, who are no longer at the Women's March, have been outside. I've seen them. I've been seeing a lot. Even some of the white women who are no longer there.
For sure.
Bob, a lot of the original women from the Women's March, like
Bob,
the
we
folks
miss
that
you, Bob.
started Revival, Chorus, whatever, like they come outside with the keffiyehs. They're out at the pro-Palestine rallies, really publicly out there. So I just wanted to say that because it's something that has been sitting with me, as you said, Tamika, in my back pocket, that I've kind of wanted to say. And like just to wrap this up, that people do whatever people want to do. But if we were just here to share our perspective about where we are, and me personally, if people are looking for me, I'm down underground. Like there's meetings coming up with major immigrant rights leaders, folks that are on the front lines, to decide what it's going to look like to protect our communities. Who needs resources, mapping, also looking nationally. Let's map the cities. Which ones are not sanctuary cities? The cities where we know law enforcement will immediately cooperate with the Donald Trump administration, because there are some governors and some mayors that have said, not us, we're not going to play that in our city. But there are others that are like, we ready, please pick us, number one, we're over here. We just got to make sure that we are helping.
Well, and then you also have a layered, it's just layered. We could go on all day. I'm not even going, I just want to make sure to mention that, there are also people out here who are calling for all women's organizations to speak up about what's happening in the Sudan and in the Congo to African women. Yeah. And we don't see anything on that either. Yeah. So there's lots of work to go around that requires us doing more than having a public, and not us, them, people, from having a public march.
I just want to say one last thing, if I may. And I know I don't really say this publicly, but I have felt betrayed by the Women's March. And so I'm also very angry that they're calling it the People's March, because of how we were organizing in 2016 and people wanting us to call it the People's March. But it was precisely that reason that we called it the Women's March, because we needed to galvanize women and we needed women in leadership. It needed to be women-led. But I feel betrayed by them because we weren't protected when we were being falsely accused of certain things. And it really has harmed many of us. And I know we have different levels of healing. And I feel like I'm now just kind of like at that point where I'm talking more about it. I'm still angry. And I know Linda has said, okay, we got to get over it. We got to move forward. But I feel like they turn their backs on us, the current leadership that is talking about women's rights, that is talking about people, protecting people, turn their backs on the very people that had organized the Women's March. And that was myself, you, and Linda, and as well as Bob, right? So
and others. But I would say, and I want to say I thank you ladies so much for being here and for being vulnerable. And I think that it's important for us to acknowledge that when you say they abandoned us and they did this and that, some of them are the ones who actually did the damage.
Yes.
So it's not just a turning your back.
Yeah.
It's that they were part of organizing against us. We knew it, didn't know it as much at the time, but we learned it. And in my book, I Live to Tell the Story, which is going to be released on February 11th, there is a place where I say, when I get old and gray, I'm going to tell people about a Black woman who was part of those organizing against us. And I said, but I can't tell you who the BITCH was now because you can't handle it. It's too deep.
Much.
It's too deep.
But let's,
you know?
but let's also just not end this beautiful conversation, by the way. Thank you so much for having us here, Mysonne and Tamika.
Thank you for being here.
The truth of the matter is there was a lot of things that happened to us, but God said,
Oh,
no.
God, we still. That's why I live to tell the story.
Exactly.
That's why I live to tell
I just
the
want
story.
people to know that, sometimes, and this is what I believe in, and it's interesting because the people of Gaza believe this too. Sometimes you got to go through the worst shit, and of course, nothing we've experienced is even close to what the people of Gaza experience. To be where we are right now, to get to a better place. So I feel grateful. I just want people to know that, Tamika got a second book coming out since. I mean, we got to remember this. We're talking about something from 7 years ago, 6 years ago, whatever. The things we've accomplished, the things we've been able to do.
I got 2 babies now.
Yeah.
I mean,
And a whole husband.
personally, professionally, I'm just so grateful to God.
Yeah.
And
Me
the other
too.
thing is, this right here is also a demonstration of what's real and what's not. This is still here,
That's
right?
right.
Because we could have just been like, cool. We was at the women's march. I mean, we obviously knew each other before that, and we still together. And that's beautiful.
And we will
you
stay
still,
together.
You still together. You know what I'm saying?
I'm still the 5th co-chair.
You still the 5th co-chair, my friend. That's what I'm talking
We love you, Bob Bland, wherever
love you, Bob.
are.
about. Bob,
Dope interview. We appreciate y'all.
We love you.
peace.
It's always a beautiful moment when all 3 of you are in here and just listening to you just reminisce. So many years of camaraderie and sisterhood and brotherhood. Just being I call myself the fly on the wall at the Women's March. And just seeing how you evolved from that, how they've evolved from that, and then we find ourselves in another pivotal moment in history. And just having that conversation. So I love what we have as a family. And just listening to y'all talk. So sometimes I just get caught enamored in the moments of listening to y'all talk.
Yeah, I mean, it's, we talk to each other every day, and we are one another's peace. We keep one another calm. I think all of us do. Angelo, yourself, me, Carmen, Jay, Ramin. I mean, the list goes on with a family that we've created that, we know one another's struggles even when one of us is not expressing it, And so I thought that it was important that, not have people asking you, asking me, you ask her, and then everybody, and we all giving different perspectives. You can get it from us in one place, how we feel, where we are at this time. And I truly do believe what I said, that in this moment, the white community needs to take a look at what has happened here and understand that they also have a serious problem. Black folks, mainly black women and black men, are pretty much on the same page. There's some who didn't vote at all, but for those people who actually brought themselves to the polls, they knew the assignment. We knew the assignment. And so we pretty much have shown over and over again that we are willing to protect everybody while also trying to protect ourselves. That is not the case with our white brethren and sistren. They need to have many more opportunities to allow people of color to rest, to figure out our conditions, our situations, what we're going to have to face, what it's going to look like to live under a regime, if you will, or a wannabe regime that is in many ways fascist and, of course, a dictatorship. We need to be able to figure that out, and people shouldn't even be asking us to march. And I know there's some folks out there who will say, well, no one asked you specifically, Tamika, or you, Linda, or you, Carmen, or you, Mysonne. But there are people asking us because we're getting the phone calls. We're getting the questions about, well, can't we do this together? Can't we come together? Or, well, why don't we look past the things of the past and fight? And we have people asking us all of that. And I think that the way to protect those people who you claim you're supposed to be so much for is to just say, we got this. We're going to go, we're going to organize our people, and we're going to make sure that white women put ourselves in the line of, and I don't want to say fire, but the line of the lion's eye. You go out there and do that. Don't even bother. Just say this march ain't even for people of color. It's white people who are calling on white people to show up, and do not shift that burden on other communities.
I 100% agree with you.
Yeah, well, that's right.
So for my, I don't get it today. I've been having dialogue just over and over, just trying to, just the moment we in is like, first of all, I just don't understand the people. Like, I think that was my I don't get it last week, that I don't understand the people that think now because Trump was elected president that people are just supposed to be quiet and just all right, it's over. No, now the work actually begins. Now I was having a conversation. I seen a post that actually Ben Crump had posted, and he was talking about how President Biden had just put 61 new judges, black judges, on
the benches,
on the benches.
Federal benches.
And I was like, okay, that makes sense. They said, and he has over 267 black judges that he's put on benches since he's been in office. And I thought that made sense. And then people was like, oh, nobody cares. What have those people done? And black faces in high places don't do anything for black people. And that's nothing. It's nothing. In that concept, I just don't get, right? I just don't. I understand that there are going to be some black judges that don't do things that we need. There are going to be some people that don't do anything. But to just believe that we don't need black representation, right? That we don't need black people that come from our communities to be in positions of power, to be able to interpret law, to dictate, to handle sentences, and that understand our culture, that understand where we come from, that we don't need none of them in any position of power. It's so confusing to me that people have that notion that they believe that. Like, what are we telling our kids? We telling our kids to go to school, be smart. You can be a lawyer, you can be a doctor. And then actually, when they actually get to those places, we're telling them that they have no value to us anymore. Right? It's confusing to me. We send these kids to school. You paying tuition. You paying all this thing. They scholarly. They studying the law. They've been through the reality. They probably seen their uncles go to jail. They seen their mothers be abused by the system, and they want to get in the positions to actually change those things. And we're telling them that when they get there, that they don't matter. That now they sold out because now they've actually done the things that we've told them to do. It's just like, I really am so confused with this mind state, and I'm confused at how they tricked us into believing that, because they are in positions of power all the time, and we watch them abuse.
Who is they? You mean
the white people have been in position of power since we came here, and we watch how they've abused it. They've negatively impacted us. How when a young white boy goes before a white judge, he's able to get probation for shit that they give us 5 and 10 years for. We watch it work for them. So how did they convince us to believe that none of us care enough about us to be able to implement those same, levels of empathy and understanding for our own people? Like, why do we think this way?
Well, I have so many. I have different points that are coming up as you're speaking. First of all, who is the they on our side or we that you're talking about? Because those people who have actually been engaged in struggle, for the most part, don't feel the way that you're talking about, right? Or the way that what you're saying. I believe that one of the biggest issues here and why you get confused about things is because of the people you're talking to and listening to. You are spending time communicating with and accepting the rationale of a lot of stupid ass people that's on the internet. And that's why you're in this fishbowl of listening to people say very ignorant things. That's why I don't spend my time there. I don't spend my time there. It has become a very much so entertainment tool for me and a messaging tool to get out things that I care about. Sometimes I might learn a little bit, but I am spending less of my time. I've actually been training myself to say a thing. If I decide to make a comment on the Shade Room or make a comment wherever, I might respond one time. Other than that, I have decided that many of these people are trolls. So they are deliberately, even if they're trolls that have a real profile, because as we learned, I have the evidence in my phone that during this presidential cycle, this election cycle, there was a way that you could be paid to use your page to respond to things that, to respond in my comments, your comment, whoever. I'm not saying us, we were being targeted. I'm saying in general, you could pay you would be paid to use your real profile to communicate with people, because the trolling that used to be very prominent, or much of it, was people who have no page, no profile, and it's just like bots, and they're talking, and when you go on their page, it's either blocked, or it is one picture or two pictures or whatever, and that was a clear giveaway that these people are fake. So they are now actually paying real live people to use their social media accounts to be out there with the same talking points. So you could literally go up there and say the most sensible things, and you're going to be met with people who are going to tell you that it doesn't matter that there are black judges out there. That's what you're going to be met with. I don't even know why you waste your time, because what you're doing is expending energy talking to people who
I might respond. I respond to one or two people that I know. At this point, you might get one or two comments out of me. But still the mind state, because I go down the line and I see a bunch of people having these conversations, and there's people that go, I don't have to do it because they're very much trained. Shout out to Aya. Aya is going to tear you up. She's going to tear you up from the beginning. And then there's a couple more people that I know that immediately when somebody says, they go through it. So I watch the dialogue between them, and then I see, 50 or 60 other people saying this, and I'm like, what? Who tricked you into believing this dumb shit?
Well, you also have black people who have encountered a black judge that was the worst, the absolute worst. You prefer when I went to vote, there were several judges, names of judges, right? I think it was like 6 or 7 of them, and up for election. I looked at the names, and I literally did like placing a bet, because unfortunately I did not know all of those people. I knew the black woman, and I think I knew one more person. But I looked at those people, and I literally chose the white man, saying to myself, sometimes you could get a white male judge that actually makes sense. They're a little more sensible, by the law, by the rules. But there was some other people that was on there. I literally was like, I'm not going to vote for you, because I know I have encountered. Of course I voted for the black woman, but I have encountered oftentimes people from all different types of backgrounds that feel that they have a responsibility to do you as dirty as possible just so they can continue to prove themselves and be invited to the white people's Thanksgiving. So I understand that some people, their response is coming from a place of trauma, but there are a large majority of people who are really, really, really ignorant. They're stupid, they're ignorant, and you be up there entertaining them and giving them your time. And this is why you over here confused as to what is wrong with people and who tricked you into believing. Because if you walk away from the internet right now and you just go up and down the street, and if you stood on the corner of this block and started to say exactly what you're saying, that Biden put 61 judges in place, and black judges, and he has over 200 and something, and blah, 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 and you explain it to people. The average person, regular person that you are seeing in person is going to say to you, I didn't know that. That's actually great. Or they're going to say, well, I've had a black judge who did XYZ to me, so I don't know. But almost no one that you meet in person is going to tell you that it doesn't matter that this man put 61 black judges in the last couple of weeks or months or whatever on the federal bench. It's just not going to happen. Those are people in a bubble on this stupid shit. I'm telling you. I am telling you.
Well, I'm trying to say there's a couple of them that I know. And they not just on there.
I'm sorry to tell you.
And they will literally argue you down with this same talking point. And it's just like, I don't know how we got there, and it's confusing. Because like you said, for the most part, it's people that I don't know, that I've never seen. But there are people on there that I literally know. And when they have this conversation, they keep on saying these same things. And I'm like, why do y'all believe that? Like, what makes you believe that this even makes sense? So I just asked the question because... And they keep trying to tell you the same thing. Oh, this is what Malcolm said. And this is what this
Malcolm, Martin, Stokely Carmichael, Marcus Garvey, Coretta Scott King, Dr. Dorothy Height, who else? Maya Angelou. I'm just trying to think of everybody that people might love, right? All of these, Dorothy Cotton, all of these people, Reverend Jesse Jackson, not one of them ever said that white people's ice is better, it's colder. None of them said it is better to put white people in charge of everything and they're going to make it all right for you. Because white people have been in charge, and guess what? We have the highest levels of mass incarceration of any community while there were white judges, at some point all white judges. We didn't start becoming judges until much later, after the courts had already been designed to be the catch place, the holding place for us, the kangaroo court. That's where that came from, right? So I'm just telling you, I'm giving you some advice today. If you want real life responses and real life and meaningful dialogue, you should go to a street corner and just say your thing that you feel that you would say on social media on the street corner and have conversation with the people outside.
The reason why I'm having this conversation, because I literally just did a podcast 3 days ago with two people that sat there and had these conversations, two black men, and they was literally arguing me down, saying the same dumb shit. So it's not like in a bubble. It's not, if it was just on the internet with people I didn't see, I would be like, okay, you're right. But listening to these black men regurgitate the same shit, it was frustrating. And then when the podcast was over and I'm reading the comments, it's people that are agreeing with me, like, yo, how are y'all that ignorant? Who told y'all this shit that y'all saying? Like, why are y'all this ignorant? So it gave me some hope. It's like, okay, all is not lost. You know, there's a bubble of place where these people exist, but I don't even know how they exist. I don't even know how that mind frame exists, you know, because they really made us believe that, you know, that's one of the things Michael said. Who told you to hate yourself? Like, what made you believe that the white people going to do more for you than black people? Why have you convinced yourself of that?
Well, because black people in positions of power, people don't feel like they've done enough for them.
But I understand why they don't feel like they've done enough, because a lot of them can't do enough. A lot of them, like you said, a lot of them don't have the position of power. And then a lot of them are trying to appease people. So, but I want to believe, I want to believe that given the opportunity, right, if we continue to change the narrative and we continue to reshape what America is and we continue to put our culture in positions of power, I want to believe that ultimately we empower them to make those changes that they feel comfortable enough. They feel enough of us back them. They don't need white validation. They don't need none of that. And when we start to do that, then you'll see the shift. But as long as we keep acting like our people don't matter, then we do nothing but a disservice to our own.
Well, I mean, you know how I feel about it. So
that brings us to the end of another episode of TMI. We appreciate y'all for making us the #1 podcast in the world, like we always are. TDM, we did our thing.
Right.
Shout out to our sisters, Linda Sarsour and Carmen Perez, for joining our show today. We love them.
Yep.
Make sure you follow them on social medias. They are part of our organization. Linda is one of the co-founders of Until Freedom. And Carmen Perez is the president of the Gathering for Justice, Harry Belafonte's organization, one of our great leaders. RIP to him. We appreciate y'all. Look, make sure that you follow us subscribe to our channel on YouTube. We need you to watch all of the shows and let us know what you love. Let us know who you want to see. Let us know who you want to interview. Let us know. Give us all of your critiques, your criticism, and your love. We love you. We're going to continue to do what we do. I'm not going to always be right. Tamika D. Mallory's not going to always be wrong, but we will both always, and I mean always, be authentic.